Oskar would make grand claims that he was developing ways to save the world and help people be more conscious of their spiritual health by giving me money.
Oh, Arnold, I need money. I'm desperate, little buddy. You gotta help me.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies, it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead, look it up. Thanks so much. Oskar the drunk. Drunk unemployed roommate blames society. Part 1. I mean, a lot of people who are abject failures tend to blame society for their failures. It's a lot easier than looking inwardly and being like, oh, maybe this is something I need to work on with myself. But hello, ReddX and my fellow subscribers. Hi, Roaming Rivers, my friend. This is such a long time. I've been silently watching the channel for a good amount of time now, and it just seems to up the ante when it comes to hits of cringe. Very kind words, thank you so much. The Moby Vic saga was something else entirely, LMAO. I mean, Lady Angelia delivers the goods. She's always got the best cross posts, so thank her for that one, 100%. But well, as all good things must end, the Chaos God in charge of Neckbeards has decided to send a few unsavory cultists my way, even as I live that peaceful life of outdoor activity, sobriety, and self-improvement. You can never truly escape it, man. When it's your time, it's your time. You're gonna have this interaction. The universe is gonna try and teach you some sort of lesson, and then hopefully it ends before it hurts too much. Anyway, today I will be bringing you the first of at least a 2-part series about a rather unsavory roommate that I had to deal with for a few months as I continually worked towards my career goals. Roommate stuff basically always sucks.
When you live here, it makes me feel angry because you're a horrible roommate and nobody in this house likes you.
I've shouted it from the rooftop 1,000 times now, but I'll do it one more. It sucks. The cast list is a bit complex, so I'll just be introducing them when they're relevant. Some details may not be entirely clear. A lot of hostile housemate politics that would make Game of Thrones look sane by comparison, even if Game of Thrones was rated PG-13. So, pour yourself some drinks, grab a snack or something, and step inside the armored beard safari train. I spared no expense to avoid more injuries and lawsuits. I mean, ReddX Industries lawyers are on point, but I do appreciate the foresight. As usual, names, locations, dates, etc. have been kept as vague as possible in order to protect all parties involved. There's also a few trigger warnings for heavy alcohol use, grievous bodily harm, a bit of sexism, threats of self-deletion, and also emotional maltreatment. Well, great. Seems like we're running the gamut. Let's see if we can squeeze any actual laughs out of this, or if it's just going to be sad boy hours. Second trigger warning. Oh, God. Don't do a second one.
I can't take this shit no more, man.
In some parts of this tale, I do tap into some of the worst parts of myself, as I get the impression that some members of the audience will look at me differently afterwards. Honestly, a lot of the reason I haven't told stories of my own on this channel. I just want to be upfront and honest about the events of this tale and admit that I am still a deeply flawed man. I feel that I'm a villain at some parts of this tale. Yeah, but you're a villain with some insight. You're an interesting one. Truth is, we're all deeply flawed. I guess the difference is made in like how you work around that, how you try to build yourself past it. Anyway, now we are on to the tale. So, I had been living in my home country, trying to get my career in the great outdoors going. I had been having a rough patch in steady work, as all I could get was seasonal work. While I was certainly learning at each job that I work at during that year and a half, I felt that my skills and degree were going to waste. Bro, you don't need a degree to be a lumberjack. You don't even need a GED to be a lumberjack.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
Just pick up your axe and get out there. OP says, I applied all over the country looking for work that would fit my career ambitions until I struck gold. too good to be true, was it? I managed to find work at a winter gear shop several states away, and though the work was seasonal, it was in a region where I could find more seasonal work that would also suit my needs. I found a room in a house in an online forum, and to admit my own fault, I overlooked a huge red flag in my blind ambitions to build my resume and career. Yeah, taking a Craigslist roommate, that's the lowest of the low. But you do got some gumption taking that off. Surely it will be rewarded at some point. When I asked if the landlady would be emailing me a link to do the background check, a practice that I was quite used to, she said not to worry about it because she preferred the honor system, that people were still inherently good. I still kick myself for being blinded enough by my ambitions that I overlooked that giant, bright red flag, still dripping red dye onto the ground. Honestly, that red flag probably would have slipped past me too. I've never done a background check. I usually just have a friend and become their roommate. That's how it worked. That's how it still works, come to think of it. After driving across 4 states to get to the town that I'd be staying in, it was clear that I walked into a hostile roommate situation. Ugh. I also didn't have the financial means nor time on account of my job to try and find a new place. Bro, you got time. Do it on your lunch, bro. You got time. Anything but this. We will make the time, okay? The current roommates that were there were Roomie 1, R1 for short, and Oskar, the star of this house of horrors. I gave him the name Oskar as a nod to that Hey Arnold character of the same name.
I must be in heaven. Oh no! Oscar's here! This must be the other place!
Oh my god, core memory unlocked. The voice is somewhere inside me, I think. We'll see how it goes. Oskar is an unemployed mooch who only looks out for himself, hardly ever taking responsibility. This Oskar, however, had little to no redeeming qualities, and I'm sure y'all will find that out soon enough. I look forward to unraveling his degeneracy. Roomie 1 was an elderly lady who worked from home doing financial work for the local town government. She was an aging hippie with a good heart and had a big fur baby of a pit bull that I enjoyed spoiling with treats and belly rubs. I got along quite well with Roomie 1. Dude, old people in general are pretty easy to get along with, to be fair. Given her age, work hours, and having a physical disability, I also did small chores around the house for Roomie 1, such as shoveling the steps outside of the house, helping her move stuff to her car, etc., all of which she did pay me for. She seems like a good egg. She works for the government and is a hippie and has a pit bull, but she does seem like a good egg, despite that. I also got along quite well with Oskar in the early days, says OP, as we both liked a lot of the same music, comic series, and movies. He was an older guy in his 50s and often dressed like a grunger from the 90s. He did not work. Instead, he attended college online and kept saying that, I will get a job once my classes are over. Is that the Oskar voice? I think it's close enough. He also had a nasty drinking problem that would rear its ugly head as time went on. Him leaving beer cans in the kitchen sink for days on end became a recurring theme, and over time, most of our recycling consisted of literal contractor bags full of beer cans. I asked him early on to please not leave beer cans in the sink. And I even pointed out that those cans were applicable to be recycled in this state. He shrugged it off, saying that he didn't have time outside of his classes. So I didn't press the issue, as I had other things to worry about. Dude, that's free money you just left sitting around. Those are like a nickel each. You don't want them? Can I have them? I'll do the legwork for 20-30 bucks. Sure, why not? Why does my car smell like stale beer, officer? Well, I just love recycling. OP continues, I was too busy focusing on my own work and life to really get mixed up in their constant fighting, as well as I was out of the house most days, away from their constant arguments. The only time that they were civil to each other was when I was in the same part of the house as they were. That makes it even more awkward, honestly. I don't know the dimensions of this apartment, but it's probably pretty small. Like, anytime either one of them steps out of their room, they just start fighting like cats.
Hey, shut up!
There were a lot of back and forth accusations of cheating the welfare system or having a drinking problem, substance abuse, not cleaning up after oneself, etc. It all became a blur. After only a week, I just stopped paying attention. I mean, honestly, after a certain point, who can even bother caring anymore? You think I want to get involved in your petty little drama when I'm trying to, like, make my own life happen? All I do is live here. If you could not talk to me while I'm living here, that would be great. Kind of impossible, but also pretty cool. OP says, less than 3 weeks after I had moved in, Roomie 1 had moved out. Oof. And it took another month for movers to come and move all her stuff out of the apartment. Roomie 1 and I are still on good terms to this day, and she still says that I was a very pleasant roommate. I think the best roommate I ever had was Andrew, but my favorite one's Ramtide. It was only after Roomie 1 left that I really saw Oscar's true colors. I will now be switching to the classic numbers format to add a bit of order to this madhouse. And I love the numbers because it gives me a good stopping point. Not that the numbers ever stopped me before, but when the number changes, that means it's time for a longer exposition than usual. Anyways, Chapter 1, Story 1. Society owes me an explanation. I also did small chores for Oskar early on, such as driving him to the food bank, driving him to the local big box stores, as well as shoveling snow out of the steps/footpath. He did pay me for these tasks, as I had bills to pay. I mean, paying you for your work does set a good precedent, but he's paying you with my money. OP says, you see, when I'm driving, I love to chat with people. It helps me get to know them, and helps them get to know me. So I shared some of my own backstory with Oskar, and I told him that I was trying to live a good life, keeping sober and sane through a combination of good food, exercise, the great outdoors, healthy hobbies, and weekly therapy. Love to hear it, man. That's like the antithesis of what Oscar's about. This is Felix and Oskar, but like in a different way. Is that too old a reference? Y'all remember The Odd Couple? Whatever. While I am someone who views life and the world to be inherently unfair, I don't let that stop me, and I push myself to be successful, as I maintain a good present for myself so that I can continually build a better future for myself, as well as hopefully pass on the things that I've learned one day to the next and future generations. I love that the world's unfair. Give me greater challenges. That's what I say.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
I'm ready to take it on, dude. It's only when you reach your lowest point that you find out what you're really capable of. Oskar, on the other hand, took a very different approach. He fancied himself a peaceful revolutionary. That his ideas were going to fix the world, though if only everyone else was smart enough to listen to him. His daily life outside of college classes largely consisted of watching TV, playing with Lego sets, and drinking himself into oblivion. That sounds like such a cool thing to do at 20, but if you're still doing it at 50, I don't know, man. Maybe take a look around. Oskar would make grand claims that he was developing ways to save the world and help people be more conscious of their spiritual health by giving me money.
Oh, Arnold, I need money. I'm desperate, little buddy. You gotta help me.
However, any recommendation for him to stop drinking was met with instant hostility, with him claiming it was from nature and totally not addictive. Dude, that's what like the really hardcore potheads say. They just freak out. They're like, no, You can't even become addicted, bro. It's like, I don't know, man. Let's just maybe for a minute try to look at this thing through the lens of objective reality. It seems like you're an addict. Which, you know, as long as it doesn't affect your life, none of my business. But just be real and know that about yourself. During this conversation, Oskar tried to convince me to try drinking again, saying that sobriety was not natural and that 12-step programs are fascist cults. I shut that conversation down really quickly, to say the least, saying that my sobriety was not up for debate. See, he wants to drag you down into the darkest depths with him. Can we cut in the crab pot thing again? We cut it in on 4chan Green Text yesterday, but we'll recycle it.
The only thing a crab is good for is holding back other crabs. A crab don't want to see another crab make it.
Video's never complete without a Boondocks reference, isn't it? I do want to say, though, also, great response, OP. Other than that, he spent a lot of his time blaming everyone else for his problems, as expected. The first example I saw of this is on one of those days where I drove him to the food pantry, only for him to find out that the food pantry was closed that day. Instead of moving past this, he whined the whole way home about it being the food pantry's fault for being closed. They should be open 24/7, and that the sweet old ladies behind the counter were a bunch of, well, nasty words that I'm not going to sit here and type out. Like, you have internet access, don't you? You don't want to just Google the hours before you go? You really have drunk yourself stupid. Be it his family disowning him after 3 interventions, he came from a wealthy family with political connections, be it the local cops after he lost his driver's license after 3 DUIs, his car getting impounded due to said DUIs, or even getting a dishonorable discharge from the army, Oskar blamed everyone else for basically everything that went wrong in his life, saying that he didn't need to change anything about himself, that it was society that had to change. This also ties into the tale about his short-lived military career, which I guess we'll get into next. The only thing that I even really want to say about the entire story is, like, yeah, personal responsibility goes a long way. And being honest with yourself, even when it hurts. Like, throw your ego out the window because it doesn't help. Just look at all of it and everything you do outside of yourself and see. It's not easy, but practice, and then you will truly see. Oscar's like, I have a solution for this. It is called beer goggles.
Hey, wait, what about my reward?
I guess life does look better that way. Anyway, into story number 2, a tale of dishonorable discharge. Is that a euphemism? Did Oskar catch an STD? We'll find out. You see, Oskar had been in the army in his youth, with the dream of one day being a general. Wow, from general to peaceful revolutionary. What a story arc. Even back then, however, Oskar had a nasty drinking problem and still did not view his drinking as a problem by the time of him telling me this tale, saying, alcohol comes from nature, so it can't be that bad. Cyanide also comes from nature. He had several variations as to why he was kicked out, though I'll be sharing the one that sticks out the most in my own memory. Even then, I'm not entirely sure of the real story. Some details may be amiss, though I'm only relaying what I picked up through his drunken ramblings. I was also never in the service, so I'm speaking from the viewpoint of a civilian. Don't sweat that too hard. Civilian life, best life, that's for sure. So you see, while stationed at an unspecified base in the United States, Oskar had gone AWOL while on guard duty, taking a military jeep off base to go drinking at a nearby town. He even bribed one of the guards on duty to let him off of base. I don't know how he ever thought this was going to work. In short, he eventually found out that his commanding officer was looking for him, so in his infinite wisdom, he got back into the military jeep and floored it back to the base. He ended up driving right into the guard outpost. The guy he bribed had gone elsewhere, so it was a different guard that was in the guard post at that time. The guard was left paralyzed from the waist down. Holy shit. Story just got a lot less funny all of a sudden. And even testified that Oskar had gotten out of the vehicle unscathed, clearly very drunk, blaming the guard for moving the security booth. The guy who Oskar had bribed never came forward, likely to save his own skin. Dude, yeah, wow. Hang him high. I don't even know if a dishonorable discharge is good enough. Like, they didn't send him to Leavenworth for at least a few years? I mean, he's 50, they might have. What a piece of shit. Harming others. Nothing will make a person lose their humanity faster in my eyes. In the end, Oskar was sent to the brig. For how long? Decade at least, come on. And he was given a dishonorable discharge upon his release. His dreams of being a general, now non-existent. Jesus, how did the judge not throw the book at him? The guard that he paralyzed, however, was given an honorable discharge and even went to college after leaving the army. Last Oskar heard, that man now lives in a nice house, works a desk job for one of those 3-letter government agencies, and even has a wife and 2 kids. Yeah, and all that without the use of 2 of his legs, thanks to you. And Oskar laying there, able-bodied, just shamelessly being a piece of shit. Karmic justice is sort of sweet sometimes. I mean, it sucks for both of them, but universe teaches harsh lessons. I don't know. To this day, Oskar still blames everyone else in that situation for ruining his dreams, believing that they had it out for him. He even blames the structure of the outpost, claiming it was too narrow to be safe.
Are you serious right now, bro?
I don't think I could be around this person. I would be physically angry if you told me this story with a smile on your face. I'd be like, do you even think about the man whose life you ruined? Didn't he have dreams, Oskar? Do you see anybody outside yourself? Oh God, I'm starting to boil up. But before I do that, let's move into story 3. Job interviews and hygiene habits. Yes, they go hand in hand, don't they?
Tell me, are you good with your hands?
Oh yeah, I'm very good with my hands. Look, I can do this.
Oskar had horrible hygiene, only doing his laundry when the smell became too much to ignore. He prioritized cheap beer over laundry money. When he would go to job interviews, he would often go in drunk and or wearing dirty clothes, and then he'd whine about not getting the job, often whining that the people interviewing him were so mean to him. He eventually stopped looking for work, proudly stating, "I'm done contributing to capitalism." If you're really taking that stand, then go off in the woods, dude. You're still taking that money. You're participating. I'd be mean to you too. You show up to an interview looking like a bum, especially without a good excuse. This time slot could have gone to somebody who could at least pretend to give a shit, you know? Story 4, cleaning hypocrisy. Oskar loved to cook, and it probably was one of his very few talents, as he was really good at making Italian food. He would share the food that he cooked with myself, Roomie 1, and the landlady. However, he would then leave the dirty pots and pans in the sink or on the stove for days on end. Often because he liked to use sugar in a lot of his recipes, his messes would attract a lot of flies. It didn't help that he would also pile his empty beer cans on top of these dirty pots and pans, only making the mess smell even fouler. Yeah, making a foul soup right there in the sink. You know how easy that stuff is to clean if you just get it under some water like same day? But yeah, if you can't clean up after yourself when you cook, then please don't cook. Whenever I asked him to please clean up his mess, he would get very defensive about it, saying how he was a grown man and he would do it when he had time, and he was too old to be ordered around by other men. Heh. What's the matter, Grandpa? The arthritis getting to you? Maybe you just shouldn't cook no more. Applesauce and strained peaches for you for the rest of forever. As for OP, he says, I tend to stick to a leave no trace policy in the kitchen, though I will admit I'm not perfect. If I left so much as a dirty bowl or an eggshell in the sink, he would pick up on this and act as if it was the end of the world, claiming that You can't leave a kitchen messy, seemingly oblivious to his own mess. Yeah, that's the point you tell him to go screw. Gesture at his dishes, make an incredulous face. There was even a time when I was working when Oskar sent me a photo text of an empty oatmeal packet that I had accidentally left on the counter that morning, acting as if I had committed some horrible crime. He has nothing else to do all day. He sits around the house and gets angry over empty oatmeal packets. Do not allow this man to have any effect on you whatsoever. He's hardly worth acknowledging, definitely not worth respecting. OP says, I did make a comment then about the pot calling the kettle in regards to his own current mess in the kitchen, and he lost his damn mind, sending me a wall of text screeching about how he was a grown man. Prove it. When I got home that day, he half-heartedly apologized, though still tried to make the point about, please keep the kitchen clean, despite his own mess that was still covered in flies. Maybe photo texts are the only way he knows how to communicate? Just send him a bunch of pictures of his own dirty dishes every day. Is that passive-aggressive enough? Let's hope. I was too tired and angry to even argue, so I snapped, I work for a living. I have better things to worry about, before going to my room. He would only ever clean the kitchen if the landlady forced him to. Again, OP with the really just laying it down so flat. Them's good words. I got better things to worry about. You're around the house all day. You clean up my fucking oatmeal packet. Story number 5, landlady arguments. There was one night, a few days after Roomie 1 had left, that Oskar and the landlady got into a vicious argument that lasted well into the early hours of the morning. There were comments about his refusal to work and his various excuses as to why he did not work and how he was 4 months behind on his rent. Dude, that's an eviction plus one. How'd he get away with this? It was throughout this arguing that I learned that Oskar and the landlady used to be married. Oh, and that while they kept on a good public face, their relationship was incredibly hostile. The plot is definitely thickening up nicely, isn't it? I honestly tuned out most of the arguments as I was playing a video game to de-stress from a particularly bad week of Karens and their little crotch goblins. Their argument did not turn physical, although I had the police on speed dial just in case it did. However, when she threatened to throw him out so she could, quote, find someone who actually pays their rent, as she was losing money from letting him live rent-free, Oskar first whined that he had nowhere else to go, before dropping the line, if you throw me out, I will delete myself, making reference to the nearby freeway that often had big rigs going along the road. Here's what you do. Get the eviction notice, call the police, alert them to place this man on sewer slide watch. Maybe you get some professional help. Bing, bang, boom. Your hands are washed of the whole thing. You're welcome. The landlady, in tears, backed down after his threat, and their fighting stopped, with Oskar yelling how it would be her fault if he did it. So yeah, that's the emotional maltreatment part. Yeah, even though they're divorced, they're just so closely intertwined. What a horrible situation. For both of them, for her more than him, though. Looking back on all this, I really should have intervened, though a part of me feels that I would have only escalated things. Yeah, probably not something you want to get mixed up in. They've got their weird little dance that they do, and then they go back to ignoring each other. The next morning, they both awkwardly tried to explain the argument away. They also brought up the fact that, yes, they were divorced. In a moment of pure malice and spite, I casually mentioned to Oskar that I had tried to delete myself 3 separate times in my life, and that if I were to attempt it again, I would not be selfish enough to traumatize a poor big rig driver, that I would do the deed solo. To see his eyes go wide and the color drain from his face was delightful to witness. Again, though, I do agree, like, why do you need to take somebody with you? I guess because he doesn't see other people as human beings. They're all just pawns in Oskar world. Looking back, I admit I should have left that place sooner. I would have rather lived in a crappy roach-infested hotel room that winter than had to deal with any more of Oskar's drama. However, I am someone who is known to indulge in schadenfreude from time to time, and coupled with my low funds and the dead of winter, yeah, that's why I stayed around for as much of this as I did. I assure you, Oskar gets much worse a bit later on. If you're interested in a part 2, feel free to comment below. With always, peace, edit, space, and grammar. Yes, I would like a part 2. Please wrap this turd up for me. It's like a BadRoommates meets Neckbeard stories, and yeah, that's just a beautiful hybrid to witness. Not for you, sorry you had to go through it, but thanks for coming back with the story. He was a grown man who could have a drink once in a while, or 10.
Drink Yahoo soda. It's really great. I'm telling you, it's the best soda, okay?
Oskar the Drunk, part number 2. I couldn't think of a title. That's okay. Don't let that get to you. The story's posted, and that's what's most importantly. Thank you as always, Roaming Rivers. Hello, ReddX, and my fellow subscribers. Glad to see that my latest beard encounter was enjoyed by the community. I managed to find some time to write, so here is the next chapter in the tale of Oskar. And I was completely serious. I have no idea where we could possibly go from here. A quick recap. For a few winter months, I lived with a dysfunctional alcoholic who had no concept of being responsible for himself. He blamed everyone else for his own failures, and he saw no reason to get his life together, as he was under the impression that he was just fine the way that he was, that it's society that needs to change. And you know, I'm all for society changing, but not in the way that Oskar wants it to. We've got a bevy of trigger warnings as well. Lots of alcohol overuse and threats of self-deletion and actual self-deletion and mental illness and, well, quite a few other things that I don't want to say out loud on YouTube. So it picks up where we last left off from the last time. Roomie 1, a sweet old hippie, had been practically driven out of the house by Oskar. Oskar whined about her stuff not being moved out of the apartment on a near constant basis, and went as far as to claim that her whole family was, quote, a bunch of white trash thieves that scammed the welfare system. Which was ironic, as he himself lived on social services, yet did sweet nothing to improve his own circumstances, even in the least little bit. I don't understand how you exist with no plans for the future like this. You realize they're gonna bury you in a cardboard box, right? Nobody's gonna come to your funeral? But at least you had sweet alcohol the entire way, I guess. Really a dire series of circumstances. But also, he brought it on himself, so can't feel too bad. All in all, things did calm down for about 2 weeks, mainly because the work season had gotten very busy, and when I wasn't busting my ass for paychecks or playing D&D with friends online, I was often out of the house on my days off. Honestly, kind of the way it has to be in a crappy roommate situation. I don't want to hang out with that guy. He's gonna drag me down to his level.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So be it winter hiking, foraging, working out, or simply hitting up the stores in town, I was living an active/social lifestyle. Which is basically the antithesis of what Oskar is doing, so good for you, honestly. He gets the house to himself, but I don't know, you get to do the things that you want to do. Anyway, of course, Oskar took issue with this. Dude, you're out of that. What else do you want? He complained to the landlady how OP's lifestyle is so annoying. When the landlady brought this up with me, I told her that I have my passions and that I wasn't going to stop on behalf of Oskar's feelings. You're goddamn right, OP. You never bring yourself down to make somebody else feel better. I'll encourage them to get up and do it for themselves. But I'm not handicapping myself on behalf of your ego. Never in life. Of course, this is where things start to go downhill for ROP in this tale, and it became the beginning of the end of his time at that house. Honestly, blessing in disguise. This part is quite depressing and might not have as many laughs. Uh-oh, fuckle them seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip.
Cue flashback. You see, after that infamous sober house in the earliest days of my sobriety, what was that one, Tale of Three Beards? I really need to compile some Roaming River stuff. Anyway, he says, I stayed in touch with a few people, only to lose touch with them as we all moved on with our lives, be it for greener pastures or letting the demons move right back in. And you hate to see that second one because, like, legitimately they tried to get better. One of these friends was a young woman, about 3 years younger than I, and we will call her Reva. Warning, this section might be triggering for those who are survivors of childhood maltreatment, and there are spoilers here from the Three Beard saga, as well as the Booger Beard one-shot. Oh yeah, it was Booger Beard with the sober house thing. They're all linked together in my mind. Somehow, maybe a little bit.
You have my undivided attention.
So Reva had been in that sober house for primarily eating disorders and also an addiction to physical intimacy. She was one of those people who really suffered in that sober house, as the staff spent more time listening to her parents than trying to help her, as well as tormenting her about food portions and clothes. Were any of these staff members like dedicated therapists, or they're just like minimum wagers just trying to make their way through the day and they don't really know what's going on either? I know what my guess is, but I want to know for sure. The staff left OP alone for the most part. OP says I'd even go as far as to say I think they were afraid of me to some degree. In hindsight, this also extended to the staff leaving any people that I or my friend Big G became friendly with alone. When Reva entered our circle, the staff then began to leave her alone for the most part. Damn, did Big G drag a staff member outside? There's some story there, I'm sure. OP says maybe it was because I had a violent history of behavior to my name and was still dressing up in that cringy skinhead outfit. Those could have been the reasons that staff were afraid of me, but looking back on it, I think that the staff and I were just in a constant standoff, where they were fearful that I would hurt them if they tried to torment me, while I never acted up due to actively trying to get my life together. Well, good. Everybody stays the hell out of each other's way. It seemed to work. Look at you go. In short, while some of the housemates were huffing spray paint and shoplifting at the local liquor store every chance they could, I was attending every therapy session like clockwork, as well as practically eating self-help books. This was my commitment level to getting better. And you gotta have that drive, that motivation. And then, when motivation fails, discipline has to kick in. What episode did I say that in recently? I think it was Schopenbeard or something. But yes, I live my life that way. Couldn't do daily YouTube content without that mantra. So during my time at Sober House, and after leaving, Reva and I became really close friends. She helped me come to terms with my bisexuality, and was one of the people who helped me finally ditch the whole skinhead thing. And I helped her with some of her own issues to the best of my abilities. Yeah, helping is good, but maybe the professionals can handle this one. We even met up a few times after Sober House as we lived in different states. I cherish those good memories that I have with Reva, as that was before things went downhill for our friendship. Uh-oh, she slipped sliding away.
Let's go.
You see, Reva had been horrifically maltreated by her father as a child, while her mother covered it up to save their public image. God, they're both disgusting. Tell me they died horribly. It even extended to her parents threatening to have her exiled from the community if she went to the police. Oh, it's like one of those religious communities. A cult compound. I'd like to presume all that, but really, it could be happening right now to your neighbor, you know? You just don't know anybody all that well. Terrifying. Her mother also constantly body shamed as well as physically maltreated her, even as an adult, often blaming men for why she was treating Reva this way. Well, that don't make no sense. What you talking about? Now we have to go all the way back and unpack the mother's baggage too. Yeesh. There was even a time when Reva called me up when she was hiding in her room, crying because her parents had chased her around the house and beat her after a simple request to go see her grandmother had somehow escalated into physical violence. Dude, this family is deeply dysfunctional, super toxic. Best thing you could possibly do is remove yourself, because you can't fix everybody here. Just focus on yourself. Abandon frickin' ship is what I'm saying. I could hear her parents screaming death threats through the phone as she barricaded her bedroom door. Just insanity. I'm sure it's not a daily occurrence. I'm sure they have their good moments, but yeah, things like this, that'll leave a deep scar on a kid. I got a couple myself. I advised Reva to get out of the house, and she stayed with a friend for a few days, only for her to eventually go back home to her parents. I mean, yeah, she's a kid. Not going back would require friends' parents to adopt her, and I don't know what their financial situation is. Although arguably that shouldn't come into question when you're saving a kid from treatment like this. But I don't know. No right answers, it's all ugly. Due to Reva's ingrained belief of, we don't turn our back on family, and family have to stick together, she alternated between trying to get away from them and then running back to them at the drop of a hat. She would even reject the idea of calling the police, fearful of familial rejection and retaliation. Honestly, that might have been the best thing for her, to get away from the family and realize that, oh, I can exist without them and life is happier? But first you gotta rip the band-aid off, and she, I guess, just isn't brave enough to do that at this point. Reva's parents were publicly known as well-respected members of the community and well-read academics, the kind of monsters that hide behind a good public mask. Scariest kind of monsters, honestly. I like the crazy people that let you know they're crazy, you know? Early on, Reva would turn to me for help, and I honestly tried to help her, be it trying to help her get a job, or move out of her parents' house, or trying to get her into free group therapy, even encouraging her to go to a woman's shelter. Oh, I like that, OP. Helping her get to a professional. Okay, I'll sign off on this. However, over the course of the year, she went down one of the worst paths imaginable for a maltreatment survivor. After reading about Craster from Game of Thrones, she became fully convinced that that was how all men treated their daughters, and began to gravitate toward groups of people who would only further fan the flames of those beliefs. I tried to talk her out of it more times than I could count, only to gradually become a target of her anger. Damn, bro. Gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. I'm not gonna fight you for your own self-betterment, because guess what? It takes enough mental energy to even try and focus on my own self-betterment. A lot of unnecessarily expended energy, and good on you for doing that, but yeah, at a certain point you're just like, sunk cost fallacy. I gotta walk away. Over the course of a year, Reva and I's friendship fell apart as she went further down that rabbit hole, trying to desperately prove that all men were like her father. Actively or subconsciously? It's a lot weirder if it's actively, to be honest. It even extended to her walking into the clutches of a pimp, which I managed to get her away from after calling me up, begging for help. Okay, yeah. Definitely subconsciously. Not that that's a funny situation at all, but it does clear all of my questions right up. Did you fight him, or how did you talk that pimp down? He told him, I'm the Mac Daddy of Heimlich County.
I play it straight up, yo. You get the hell out of my hood.
Even as Reva became increasingly hateful and misandric, she never looked to her parents as the cause of her pain, fully convinced that they were fellow victims of society, that, quote, they were oppressed, that it wasn't their fault as to why they did those things to her. Jesus, that is pharmaceutical copium that you're doling out right there. Maybe you snap like once, give your kid 5 across the eyes, then feel really bad about it later. But to do it like ritualistically, that's not a mistake. Maybe they were brought up in a poor environment, and partially it isn't their fault, but it is their fault that they continued doing that. They carried on the cycle of violence. This is ludicrous. Things only got worse when I announced that I was going back to college, while Reva had dropped out of college less than a year prior. In the end, after nearly 2 years of honestly trying to help her, I ended the friendship for the sake of my own mental health, as much as it pained me to do so. Yeah, people come into your lives, doesn't mean they have to stay there forever. You learned a limit there, and I think that's healthy. Anyway, end of that flashback. Now back to the tale of Oskar. The Reva thing's gonna come up later, I know it. I forgot we was even talking about Oskar. I saw some other good-looking baggage over there to unpack. Can we get the how you saved her from a pimp story? Would you be willing? Anyway, one day at work, I got a text from another sober house survivor that Reva had died. Oh, she did come back into the story, but not in the way I hoped. I thought she was spiraling and you'd have to go save her again, but yeah, there's a lot of finality to that. The cause of death was unclear. It was either self-deletion or an accidental OD from medications, from what I'd heard through the grapevine, as she had apparently ended up in another, much worse sober house by that time. Jesus, poor kid. In the middle of the break room, I just broke down. Not crying, I just lost any and all motivation to keep going, as if all the goodness in the world has ceased to exist. And I'm sure that for you in that moment, it definitely did. The world is slightly less bright because of this. OP says it also didn't help that I had missed the funeral by about a month. Yeah, lack of closure, that sucks too. Especially because things had to end in the way that they did. OP probably feels a lot of regrets. I'm just sorry I had to go through it at all, man. After some kind words of support from one of my coworkers, an aging hippie, I dragged myself to the head manager. Both of them are great guys who I'm eternally grateful for, as you'll soon see, and I explained the situation. I really did think great manager was an oxymoron, but if you say so. After my trauma dumping on the head manager, eventually breaking down crying in front of him, the manager gave me a week off of paid time in order to grieve. You mean he let you use the vacation time you accrued, right? He didn't just give you 7 days. That's insanity. I want to go work for that guy. He even allowed me to take a stuffed animal from the toy section of the store and gave me a list of mental health resources that were available to all company employees. Bro, what? What stuffed animal did you pick? It is vital that I know. Please get back to me. The rest of the staff expressed their condolences as I got my stuff together to head on home, as my meltdown in the office became public knowledge pretty quickly. Oh, that's why you got the week off. Honestly, probably one of the things I hate the most about office jobs. You will become part of the water cooler talk. So I went back to the house and took my week to grieve. Near the end of the week, the manager called me again and gave me another paid week off. Well, shit. Why not round out the month? I'm still a little bit sad. So mean.
Feed me! Feed me!
How am I so heartless? Probably because levity is the only way we could get through something like this. This was supposed to be my last 2 weeks on the job due to the season coming to a close. Oh, he even said that he was counting this time as my 2 weeks and that I'll always have a good reference from him as well as from the company. I don't know about great manager. That guy sounds like the best manager ever. During much of this time, all I could do was lay in bed and cry. hugging that stuffed St. Bernard. Oh man, you didn't even pick like a reptile or an amphibian? See, I like the dichotomy of cuddling up with something cold-blooded. So does my wife, apparently, because I'm heartless, you see. My mind alternated between fantasies of revenge against Reva's parents, thinking about how much she suffered in life, and guilt about not being able to get her help in the end, and of course, grief-induced depression. That is a hell of a load on your shoulders, honestly. I say again, sorry that had to happen. And of course, Oskar did not help this situation. Every time I left my room to use the bathroom or get something to eat, he would badger me as to why I wasn't at work. I explained multiple feckin' times that I was grieving the loss of a good friend and that I was getting paid time off. I even had another job lined up that I was due to start in a month. See, now he's feeling entitled to having the whole house to himself. What is it you get up to when I'm at work, Oskar? The rent's still getting paid, so how about you get the hell out of my face? It's a little aggressive, maybe what he needs to hear. Still, even after I explained all this, Oskar would continue to badger me about not being at work and how I was souring the mood, and even went as far as suggesting that I go to a motel and grieve there. Yes, nothing cheers me up more than depressing motel decor. Look at that sad clown painting. He's sad just like me. Looking back on all that, I should have smacked him with a hot frying pan. Bro, don't let your dreams be dreams, that's all I'm saying. This behavior continued for nearly a week, and I was too broken to respond beyond leave me alone. The first time I snapped at him was when he found me weekly eating a PB&J. His words were, "She made her choice. People die all the time. I was in the army, OP. You just need to move past it." I snarled at him to get out of the kitchen and not come back until I left. When he protested that he wanted a sandwich, I wordlessly snarled at him, "Arrgh!" until he scurried back to his room. See, he's a little do-nothing wuss. Don't let him push you around. March into his room, say, "Oskar, this house belongs to me now, and that shitter better be clean enough for me to eat off of." And then give him a little maid costume while he scrubs it. And then be like, "Yeah, that's cellulite." That's what I'm into. Oh, gross. The second time was when I was getting out of the bathroom after a long, hot shower, and he met me as I opened the door. His next bit of Oskar logic was, "OP, you're acting like a beta male. You need to move past this and get back to work. What about your rent money?" It's not about the rent money at all. He just wants to feel like he's living by himself. OP says, "A part of me snapped. And in a weird state of mind, I said, cue plague doctor voice, I, for one, think we should start sterilizing all the incels for their drain of food and water and Wi-Fi upon our great society." He scurried back to his room pretty quickly. Those words hit real differently if you start carrying around a sharp knife or a pointy, scary doctor cane. I got a call from the landlady an hour later, with her saying that Oskar was ready to call the police. He told her that I was refusing to go to work and that I had threatened his life. "Oh, gee, you little baby boy, running to mommy, huh?" I'm ashamed to admit that I blew up at the landlady, practically shouting into the phone that a good friend of mine had died, that I was grieving, that I was getting paid time off, that I even had another job lined up. After I had calmed down, the landlady was quite sympathetic. Despite how I had yelled at her, she offered her condolences, asked that I not stress myself about next month's rent due to my delicate time, and she said that she would speak to Oskar. Dude, OP's getting all types of free rent? What?
Alright, I gotta move here. It'll bring down the house.
What? I hope that landlady lays it down real flat for Oskar. They are a divorced couple, if you don't recall that much. So she knows all the nooks and crannies where she could dig her hooks in and just break him open. And I hope it happens. I hope he cries. After this, Oskar never bothered me again about my grieving. Yeah, she broke him open, I'm telling you. However, next time I saw him, I told him he can forget about me driving him places for the foreseeable future. He whined about how he had to go to the crappy food pantry and would have to spend half his beer money on groceries so he wouldn't starve. Yeah, well, sucks to suck, like they say. And all that concludes part 2 of this tale. This one was depressing at parts, I know, though telling that tale of loss was vital to showing just how much of a waste of flesh Oskar is. Yeah, I mean, you could have said he has no sympathy for other people, but demonstrating it's the cherry on top. I mean, I did make jokes about it basically the whole way through, but in my defense, my first reaction was sympathy. I think. Wind that back. I'm just sorry I had to go through it at all, man. And all that brings us to the epilogue. So, to the staff and management at that outdoor gear shop, you all helped me during a very delicate time, and for that I am eternally grateful. I wish you all the best in life, and that you achieve all that you set out to achieve. Oh, OP worked at an outdoor gear shop. Okay. Now I understand why they didn't have the widest selection of stuffed toys. St. Bernard's fine. To Reva's parents, there are not accurate words in the human language to describe the venomous hatred that I hold towards you two wastes of flesh. You destroyed that innocent child, and she grew up into a broken young woman who was ultimately consumed by her own demons. I wish you both the absolute worst in life, and if there is a hell, I sleep soundly at night to dreams of you both at the reception desk in hell's waiting room, sobbing, "There must be some mistake, I'm not supposed to be here," as the demon behind the desk lubes up a bowling pin set with a mixture of hot sauce-based lube and broken glass. Jesus. Yeah, even that is probably still not enough. To do that to your own flesh and blood, it's monstrous is really the only word I have to describe it. Inhuman. To Reva, as much as our friendship ended on a bad note, I hope that you are able to find peace in the next life. Part 3 will probably be the end of this tale, as I was not expecting to have to make a part 3. This post took a lot out of me, to say the least. Till next time, peace. I mean, I can see that. And one of the things I like most about Roaming River's tales is that he does lay himself fairly bare. Ain't no secrets, ain't no twisted events or anything like that. I believe all of this happened 100%. Except for the landlady giving free rent. That never happens, does it? Then again, she knows that OP has to deal with her trash bag ex-husband. So she's like, okay, I got some sympathy for you. I don't know. I'm excited to get into part 3 and get this thing wrapped up. Episode's still looking a little bit short, so maybe we do a long one today. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. Join me over there for it. Oskar the Drunk Part 3. Final Conflicts. Plural with a S. Conflicts. Hello all! I got another entry to add to the tale of Oskar the Drunk. This will be the final part of the tale, and it spans less than a month. Wow, things really get out of control. This slope is looking extra slippery today. There are trigger warnings, roughly the same as the first, with the addition of weapon references, which I think we can handle, although YouTube might tell me otherwise. First entry in the Final Conflicts is a quick recap plus an opening scene. So to pick up where we left off, I had managed to gradually get myself through the grieving process after the loss of Reva. During those final 2 weeks, the effect of me cutting Oskar off from giving him rides to places certainly took a toll on him and may have led to him becoming very distant, as well as even outright hateful as time rolled on. I mean, he was always hateful inside. He only kept up a civil veneer so you would do things for him. This is who he really is as a person. Entitled, disgusting. Make him suffer for it. Not only did he begin to lose a lot of weight in a very short amount of time, he also began to get alcohol tremors that were so bad that he even struggled to hold glasses of water. It might be fun to mock him at his lowest point, but I don't know, stuff like that really freaks me out. I went on a first date with this chick, and we stayed over together, didn't do anything, but she woke up in the morning and she's legitimately throwing up because she hadn't had a drink yet. And then she popped a beer out of the fridge and she's like, oh, little hair of the dog. I'm like, huh, you're an alcoholic. Never talked to her again. Ghosted. As much as I was still angry about how Oskar had treated me during my grieving process, I did suggest that he check himself into a detox program. Yeah, that alcohol withdrawal can really kill you. I think that's what freaks me out so bad about it. There was a state-funded detox center in the next town over, using the words, "It ain't too late to turn your life around," with a tone of mockery. Oh yeah, throw that back in his face. That'll truly make him seek some help. I mean, you are trying to help, but like, are you really? Oskar got angry at this suggestion, saying that they will just try to control me afterwards, and that rehab programs are all scams, as well as, I'm not going to sell out to the man. Yeah, unless that man's name is Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Jose Cuervo. You picking up what I'm putting down, booze hound? Oskar did calm down after he was able to afford more beer, becoming largely reclusive, and began bringing home this murky, homemade moonshine that he had acquired from somewhere, though I highly suspect it was tax-free, if you catch my drift. I mean, if he gives out enough of that gok, gets enough of the moonshine, then eventually he'll go blind and he doesn't have to look at who he's blowing. This is a problem that solves itself. The landlady called a house meeting around this time and tried to lay down some new house rules, such as keeping the common area quiet, keeping the kitchen clean, as well as having quiet hours. Oh God, I love quiet hours. If only the roosters and the dogs would agree with me.
Yeah! Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
It's just what you get, living out in the boonies. Anyway, Oskar took this and began preaching that he had seniority over the house because he'd been there the longest and was paying for 2 rooms. You're paying for 2 rooms with my tax dollars, so I don't think it counts. This led to him losing his damn mind if I had a phone call in the kitchen, sending me screech texting that same day. Did he re-it you in text? I even had 2 houseplants of my own, which Oskar began demanding that I get rid of. What? The plants ain't bothering nobody. They're plants, bro. I told him that wasn't gonna happen and that there would be more consequences if I found them missing one day. He left my plants alone, yet would still try to bring up the topic every so often, as if expecting me to change my mind. What a weird hill to die on, dude. When I addressed his Lego sets all around the common areas, he would use the "I have seniority" line. Whenever I asked him to turn down his TV or music, he would get defensive and say he had seniority. All this ties into the next part of the tale when Oskar has immediate issues with a new roommate. Okay, but let's be fair that the immediate issues with the new roommate are much better than the prolonged issues that, well, have been inside Oskar this entire time. Can we at least admit that? So part number 2, new roommate. After I started that new seasonal job, working in a small gift shop in town, a new roommate moved in. For simplicity's sake, I'll call him, I don't know, roomie number 2. So roomie 2 was from Eastern Europe, as well as had taken part in some horrible war, which had left him with PTSD. All in all, much like the sweet old lady of a hippie roommate 1, I did get along with roommate 2 quite well, at least for the first few days. Oh, PTSD is gonna play into this story? That's not good. I don't know if I feel comfortable living in this house anymore. How severe is it exactly? I guess we'll see. Roomie 2 only spoke some English, though it was just enough to have simple conversations with him. I drove him around for a few errands, showed him the places to get the best prices on food, and even drove him to the hospital for a medical emergency. See? Always coming in clutch, OP. And then people don't hesitate to take advantage of that shit. Keep in mind, the landlady did not believe in background checks because people were inherently good. I don't know, I sort of believe that, but I'm not as convinced as she is. Just because you keep saying it doesn't make it more true. Over the course of 3 days, I came home twice, to Oskar and Roomie 2 shouting at each other. This was over Oskar taking issue with Roomie 2 talking in the common area, as Roomie 2 worked for some IT support company, and he had no desk to put his large computer setup on. I mean, just for work? I don't know, bro. Have you considered downgrading to a laptop? Then again, maybe we could all pitch in and buy him a desk. There's a million different ways to solve it, but the way Oskar decides to solve it is yelling at the guy. Go hold your monitor and your mouse and your keyboard all at the same time. Sit on your bed and work on a computer screen that's sitting on the floor until you get scoliosis. I don't think it's the way to go. All in all, this was a similar dynamic that Oskar had with Roomie 1, and it was soon established. The two of them would start verbally fighting like cats as soon as I went to work, or even just left the common area. Yeah, because Oskar really wants a roommate that's like out of the house the majority of the time. That's truly the biggest issue that he has with his roommate. The biggest issue he has is his own mental health, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm not licensed to go there. Then, on night 5 of his stay, as I was playing a video game, Roomie 2 just barged into my room. I cursed him out, shouting, "Oi, what the hell, Roomie 2?" To which he retreated to the kitchen. When I went outside to confront him, he apologized and said that he got confused as to which room was his. Really weird alibi, but maybe PTSD thing. Just hope that next time he doesn't barge in with a gun. After I went back to my room, I could hear him screaming gibberish and throwing food out of the fridge. I ended up locking my bedroom door after that. There you go. Foresight. The next night, he tried to break into my room again, wrenching the doorknob and banging on the door. It was then that I began sleeping with a machete next to my bed. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing illegal. This is my sleeping machete, officer. I like to cuddle up next to it. For a little context, OP says, I'm not a violent person, as I make it a point to not cause harm to anyone else to the best of my abilities. I take the same route, except when they're causing harm to others, and then I'm like, well, I feel like I should step in. And I don't mean mean words, I mean like actual physical harm. However, I will not hesitate to defend myself if I feel genuinely unsafe, which at this point I would as well, OP. I have a wide variety of outdoor tools and gear amongst my worldly possessions, including a machete that I use for landscaping work. Sure, right, landscaping work. That tree sure had a lot of iron and heme inside of it, didn't it? I was even planning on doing yard work for senior citizens as a side hustle over the summer. Oh yeah, don't do it for free. Take a few pecks out of their nest egg, you know? Love it. I'd probably pay for it too, though. Hate doing yard work. The next morning, when Roomie 2 had gone to buy groceries, there was a rare moment of me and Oskar coming to an agreement. Roomie 2 had issues, and we both felt unsafe being in the same house as him. He had also accused Oskar of planting hidden cameras in his room. What are you show me the camera. That is so outlandish. He's like, I see it up there in the vent. Okay, let's look in the vent. Wow, there's nothing here. It's in the stuffed animal. Cut it open. Wow, there's nothing there. Is it possible that all of this is in your head and maybe you need to seek a therapist? He was probably seeing one, but you know those VA benefits. After I came home from work that day, Roomie 2 was gone, having fled the house after Oskar called the police after another argument. Yeah, that'll do, I guess. He didn't come back for his stuff. And he said so in a text message to me, so we left it out by the curb for the trash to pick it up. Oh, come on, dude. He didn't have anything worth keeping in there. You didn't at least go through it a little bit. He texted you. He said he's leaving it, so now it's ours. Catch me out here on Craigslist selling a PTSD PP mattress. However, despite all this, I did get a text later from Roomie 2, and he thanked me for taking him to the hospital, as well as for being kind to him. He also expressed how much he hated Oskar, calling him an asshole and a gaslighter, both of which are probably true. But yeah, I'm happy that guy was grateful. You know, he doesn't seem all bad. He's just having a rough go of it at the moment, and I hope he pulls it together. Not Oskar, though. Oskar deserves the worst. He should be suffering much more than he is. I demand it! Karma demands it! So story number 3. Different world views. Oh, that's always a complicated thing, isn't it? On the one hand, I'm like, I think everybody should be able to concealed carry. And then all the people on the left go, boo! And then I'm like, oh yeah, also I think that we should be able to smoke some of that gigabush every now and then. And then everybody on the right's like, boo! Yeah, just a degenerate. Either way you slice it. It's just different worldviews. After Roomie 2 had left, Oskar became openly hostile towards me, making nasty comments such as how working out is pointless, you're going to die anyway, or your dreams are unrealistic, or you can't change the world. He really is just trying to drag it down to his level. Look him in the eye and say, watch me. You can't change the world. I can damn well try. A YouTube video never changed the world. But I can tell you about a couple that changed me. You should strive to make the world into your own image, at least the parts that you can control. But this dude doesn't even have what it takes to dare to dream. He can't even get out of bed.
Oskar, I thought I told you not to sleep in here. And give me that salami, it's tomorrow's dinner.
Maybe he deserves a little bit of sympathy, but I guarantee you he'd drain every last bit of that. No, at this point, his path has been laid clear, and all we can really do is stand around and laugh about it. If he decides to change for the better, I'd be there to support him ahead of everybody, but the truth is, he ain't gonna. You have a lot of making up to do for the sins that you've committed. First step, I want you to call that army man that you paralyzed and ask what you can do for him, what he needs from you in order to make things even, or as even as you can hope to make it, unless that army guy decides to stab you in the spine with a screwdriver, and then yeah, pretty even, I guess. That's a ramble. Okay. OP says, I brushed off Oskar's hateful drag down sentences with these favorite quotes of mine, such as, I would rather try and lose again than never know what could have been. Oh, and it rhymes, so it's super effective. That's from Brian Harris of the band Death Before Dishonor. That's what I'm talking about. Chase that dream. Tackle it to the ground. Even once you succeed at your dream, you just, fail on top of that, but you fail upwards. It's kind of neat. Socrates also said, it is a shame for man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable of. Damn, I like that one a lot, actually. Push it to the limit when in hell. Of course, Oskar would sneer at all of these things, saying, enjoy it while it lasts. I've seen more than you. Truly, you haven't. You sit in your bedroom all day. Tell me one instance wherein that is possible, Oskar. Go back to your room. Take another drink, fat boy. I have actual goals to accomplish tonight. OP says, after the loss of Reva, I was still in a very delicate place emotionally, despite me putting on a happy face. I was calling up my therapist twice a week and was dealing with a lot of mixed emotions of anger, fear, and regret. Perhaps you need your humors balanced. Have you considered leeches? No, seriously, I'm sorry that happened to you. Why can't I just be a normal human being sometimes? My brain just didn't find the manual. File index error. Oskar does play into all this due to him still talking about deleting himself, be it to the landlady or just in casual conversation saying, "How pointless life was." Whose fault is that? You're living it in a pointless way, dude. It's so simple. You see, I had ordered a shotgun online shortly before learning of Reva's passing. That's a great toy, honestly.
I got 57 more goddamn rounds in this 4-round magazine.
I am a fully licensed hunter and have owned firearms before. I was aiming to acquire a non-resident hunting permit at some point, but I did not feel comfortable going to work and leaving Oskar alone with a gun in the house. Yet I was still a tad reluctant to cancel the order, as this was something that I had worked towards for quite a while. Yeah, you deserve a little treat. Just don't tell him what it is. You get a big long box. He's like, "What's in there?" You're like, "Posters." Leave me alone. So I spoke to Oskar, like an adult, asking if he would be comfortable with a gun in the house. He lost his damn mind, breaking into a rant about how the past 6 roommates were all psychos, and asking if I was planning on ending people on account of all the shootings that take place these days. I calmly responded that I was a hunter, and that it is a hobby that I enjoy. Yes, but do you hunt the most dangerous game? In the end, I agreed to cancel the order, and I got my money back, so no big deal. Yeah, just kick that can down the road, I guess. However, all of this was only a harbinger of the final battle. I'm ready. Space lasers fired up. We got the Jerry Army, the Fruit Pill Peach Cells Division, the Bean Boys Gang. I got 40 nations ready to roll, son. Just point them in a direction. Point them in a direction.
Do we have a talent?
Story 4. OP finally snaps. Oh my god, that sounds super goth. I think we just stuffed like 6 or 7 references in no time at all. Yes, the day where I finally decided to leave was quite eventful, to say the least. I'd gotten up before dawn that day, even though it was my day off. I had a list of time-sensitive errands and appointments to knock out that day, and due to sleeping in, I had missed making myself a proper breakfast. Yeah, because it's before dawn. But don't leave the house without a bagel and some schmear, booby. Just a little breakfast. Stick it in your mouth and run down the street like the anime girls do. After getting home at 10 a.m., I found Oskar, already 4 beers drunk and walking around in his pajamas, stumbling over himself. Your tax dollars at waste, ladies and gentlemen. I set about making myself one of my special omelets, where I have to time the cooking just right so that the ham is greasy enough and the cheese doesn't burn. What can I say? I take pride in cooking omelets. It's a hard thing to do well, honestly. And I am glad you're getting some breakfast at this point, but what about second breakfast?
Don't think he knows about second breakfast, Pip.
Oskar had gotten it into his head that he wanted to reorganize the driveway. What? It was my understanding that he would take care of this when I was out driving about that morning. However, because he just sat around drinking that morning in his typical Oskar fashion, he decided to start making demands for me to move my car when I was both hungry and cooking my brunch. Let's 4D chess this one out. He wants you to finish making the omelet and then move your car so he can sneak in and eat the whole omelet. Then again, food might dampen his buzz, so I don't know. It's up in the air. Oskar asked me to move my car 4 separate times in the span of 10 minutes, and I said, no, I'll move it when I'm done eating. Doesn't Oskar not even have a car? Like, what needs to be reorganized in the driveway? Why don't you go clean up your shithole of a room while I finish eating? How about that? Occupy yourself elsewhere. OP was nicer than that, but maybe he does need a little pushback, you know? During these interactions, he would walk out of the room after I would say no, take a swig of beer, and ask the same question again. On the 5th time, he came back drinking from a Red Bull can and said, "I've had an energy drink, OP. Now I'm good to drive. Give me your car keys." Holding out his free hand expectantly. You do understand that energy drink doesn't reverse the effects of alcohol, right? It'll make you slightly more alert, but still drunk. Not to mention the level of confidence that it's instilled in you, which is, that's dangerous. At this point, an image flashed through my mind of Oskar backing over a small child and driving straight into a tree. This made me see red. The combination of having to repeat myself now 5 times, the fact that I was hungry, and the fact that this stupid asshole knows he can't drive, yet have the absolute freaking nerve to ask for my car keys. Well, the whole thing just sort of set me off. I blew up on him, shouting, "I said I would move the car when I'm done eating! Are you fucking deaf? You had all goddamn morning to reorganize the driveway when I was out, and you know damn well that you can't legally drive! What the fuck is wrong with you? You stupid, useless drunk!" Yes, good. Let the hate flow through you. Oskar scurried out of the kitchen and left me alone for a good 15 minutes. All that, and it only bought you 15 minutes? Jesus. He is just a lonely old man, isn't he? He came back when I was almost done eating, and I shouted at him again that I wasn't done. When I was done eating, I grabbed my car keys and went outside. This is hilarious. This is what we should have been doing the whole time. Then again, it's probably the contrast, like this raging OP versus the usually calm OP, that makes him think, oh my god, maybe he is gonna stab me. On top of all of this, Oskar almost fell down the front steps in his drunken stupor. Just karmic justice at work. No big deal. I wish he would have fell down. Smashed up his nose and front teeth. What'd you say? Later that day, I called up the landlady and listed all the reasons as to why I was moving out. The mood swings, the drinking, the beer cans in the sink, the claims of house seniority, the requests to use my car, etc. I also called up roomie 1 and 2 to try and establish patterns, and they both said that they had dealt with similar issues regarding Oskar. Gosh, it's almost like Oskar's been the problem all along. I mean, PTSD guy was pretty weird too, but I won't judge him too harshly. He's an innocent, as far as I'm concerned. The landlord did call a mediation, and I got a text from Oskar the next day when I was coming home from work, with him saying that he had no idea where all this was coming from, and how I was possibly delusional. Yeah, textbook gaslighting for sure. Does this actually work on people? Do you not remember the fucking myriad conversations that we've had? Ugh. The mediation was brief, with Oskar saying that he could stop drinking anytime he wants, and how he was a grown man who could have a drink once in a while, or 10.
Drink Yahoo soda, it's really great. I'm telling you, it's the best soda, okay?
Yeah, a drink once in a while. Was that one drink every minute and a half? Minute and a half is a while, right? To add some visualization, he said this while pouring some of that cloudy moonshine into a plastic cup and drinking it straight after he was done talking. Trying to add emphasis by making yourself go blind. Sure, I don't care what you do to yourself. He tried to make the argument of, I have seniority, and I say this house is communal. Past roommates have let me use their cars. What are you on? The house is communal? That means my car is communal? No, comrade. I don't think we're going down that goddamn road. Over my dead body. I got angry at this, as well you should, saying that only I use my car, and that is one of my boundaries. He retorted that was a weird boundary. According to who? You, who has never seen the outside world? You don't know boundaries. You don't interact with other human beings enough to know boundaries. That's why all the previous roommates left. And at a certain point, you'd think you'd have the self-awareness to be like, maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm the cause of all these things. But he just doesn't. His last 2 brain shells share a shot glass and down it and just keel over dead. By all accounts, he should be completely brain dead, but he's walking around. He's a medical anomaly is what he is. Oskar did try to beg me to stay, though I ended it with saying that we were not compatible as roommates. Or friends, or acquaintances. Let's just forget this whole goddamn thing ever happened and steer clear of each other. Can we agree to that? To rub salt in the wounds, I did tell the landlady that I loved the house and that my only reasons for moving out was due to Oskar. She said that we were both being unreasonable. Man, she's just as deluded as Oskar is. Maybe you two deserve each other. Oskar sent me one more text screeching, saying that I belonged in a mental hospital and how I had created problems for him. Well, that's too bad, Oskar. I only wish I had done more. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Crazy, darn fool duck.
Who you trying to get crazy with this, eh? Don't you know I'm loco? I spent a few days looking for new places to live, and I had another argument in the kitchen one morning as I was getting ready for work. Dude, the decision is made. What is any further arguing gonna do? He went on a tirade about how I should leave as soon as possible, and how I had ruined his relationship with his ex-wife, and tried to twist the whole thing into me being angry about having to cancel the gun order. I didn't show much emotion during this tirade. Didn't even speak, just glared at him with a resting bitch face. If that makes you feel better, man, I'm the source of every problem you ever had. The longer I live in your head rent-free, the more powerful I get, so honestly, I let it happen. I calmly called him out on the fact that he had been drinking that day, and the fact that he doesn't have a license. He said he hadn't had a drink in months, and that he had a driver's license, that he was probably the best driver in the whole state. This is so like Oskar, isn't it? Like the Hey Arnold version of Oskar? Except that guy had some redeemable qualities, I guess. This here Oskar? Yeah, irredeemable. I asked to see his driver's license, and that knocked the wind right out of his sails. With his look of rage being replaced with a look of panic. He said, "Well, not right now," before running into the bathroom to hide. He really is just like a child, mentally, emotionally, just a child that can buy booze.
How old are you?
I'm 7 years old. I'm a little kid, see?
I left for work right after that because, you know, I had a life that was actually worth living. Damn, shots fired! Shots fired! OP with the truth bombs. He sent me a text when I was at work saying that he hadn't had a drink in a month, saying that I was cut off from reality and should check in with someone. Yeah, lighting up the good old gaslight again. OP says I never responded to any of his texts over those days of conflict, and that's how I deal with gaslighters. I don't give them the satisfaction of responding to them. Honestly, probably a good way to do it. You don't have to have this battle. They know they're full of shit, so just let them sit with that. Hold on to it as hard as you like. But it can't save you from yourself. That very same day, I went home from work early to pack up my stuff, as I did not want to have to spend another night under the same roof as Oskar. I even managed to score a hotel deal through work till I could sort out a place to live, and I had a good emergency fund saved up in a very short amount of time, so I texted the landlady and told her that I was not going to spend another night in that house for the sake of all parties involved. She was understanding and asked me to text her when I was done moving all my stuff out. Wow, that was pretty easy. Did she give you free rent? Yeah, don't worry about the rent. Just get your ass out of here. Gladly. As I was packing up the last of my stuff, Oskar approached me in the kitchen. His demeanor from earlier had completely changed. He begged me to stay, saying that I didn't have to move out, that he wanted me to feel safe here. I just shook my head and growled, "Don't even try." He gave up and went back to his room, raising his hands in defeat. In hindsight, I think the landlady might have told him to try and convince me to stay because I always paid my rent on time. Well, there's no discount for the decline in my mental health, so I just can't do it. That landlady, she real desperate. She real two-faced, real delusional. I think her and Oskar should get back together. Maybe that's for the best. Out of pure spite, after I was done packing up everything else, I disconnected the Wi-Fi router, which I was paying for, just before I left. I heard him let out a loud, "What the fuck?" as his blasting music was replaced with beautiful silence. He did not come downstairs to confront me as I left with the Wi-Fi setup tucked under my arm. Yeah, you really had to stick it to him, huh? I would too, honestly. Give him a couple of days of penance. Sit in your room and think about what you've done. After I settled into my hotel room, I blocked his number and went to go relax in the hotel jacuzzi. So ends my time dealing with Oskar, the drunk. Yeah, you really can't polish a turd is all that is, and OP realized it maybe a little bit too late even, but it is yet another lesson doled out by the almighty universe. And we should all be here taking notes. Epilogue. I stayed in the area for a few more months, trying to build a life for myself. Things went well for about 2 months. I found a new place, managed to get that shotgun that I wanted on a short trip back to my home state, and managed to make some good business connections. Look at you go. Everything's coming up OP. However, there's a however. A combination of not properly managing grief after the loss of Reva, the industry taking a downturn on account of the economy, and losing my job led to me having to move back home to live with my parents. Damn, dude, hate to hear that, but rest, recoup, and then get yourself the hell back out there. This is just a setback. It's not over. OP says I'm doing much better now, currently back living with my folks for the time being, as of the date that I'm telling this tale. I work a year-round job in outdoor education, teaching school children about bunnies, squirrels, and the wonders of nature. Honestly, sounds pretty lit. And if your parents don't mind having you around too much, then I guess that's cool too. More time with mom and dad is nice, but there's a big chunk of me that says grind harder, get up and out. But as long as you're happy, ain't hurting no one, I guess it's none of my business, right? Don't get me wrong, I'll comment on it, but you don't have to take it to heart. OP says I managed to work through the grieving process and have the privilege of being honored as an uncle figure to the son of one of my oldest friends. In addition to this, one of my sisters and her husband are expecting their first child, a boy, due in May. Hey, congrats. Uncle time's almost as good as father time because you could be a father for a little bit and then give him back. I'm going to enjoy being that neutral good role model of an uncle for the next 18 years. So we tell ourselves. I think I'm more of a chaotic good, but it serves. I even went on a hunting trip with a friend and shot my first mallard. I posted a photo of the bird that I shot, cooked it up with some salt, pepper, and paprika in the Discord group, and it tasted divine. Nice, delicious, greasy duck. That's good for you. Join the Discord if you haven't. We got like a food section and a gaming section, all kinds of sections. And yeah, OP is there as well. I learned some good life lessons from dealing with Oskar, such as refusing to live with grown adults who don't work, amen, not tolerating alcoholics or addicts as roommates, I don't know, in moderation, as well as not being ashamed to live out of hotel or motel rooms if the need arises. Sounds super sweet, honestly. The sheets get changed every day. I love that. It's always cool and fresh when I slide into it. That's what I'm paying for. Although they probably didn't do a very good job of washing it, Goes into a big industrial washing machine thrown around with some chlorine. Don't shine a UV light on it, that's all I'm saying. Ruby 1 still lives in the region, and we're on good terms to this day. She just welcomed the birth of another grandchild this past December. If you're out there and reading this, well, you are a great roommate. Keep on calling for peace in this world full of hurt. Hippies, am I right? Peace is an illusion. It'll never be completely copacetic. This is the human condition. Live it, love it. As for Roomy 2, well, I have no idea where he ended up, though I hope he's doing better. Me too. If you're out there and reading this, well, please get some help. I will say it again for the people in the back, please get some help. Landlady, I don't know what she's up to, though I do know that she kicked Oskar out eventually, so she must be doing better in some capacity. If you're out there and reading this, please background check your potential tenants. She still ain't gonna, but at least she learned her lesson too. Can't polish a turd. Oscar's determined not to save himself. So fine, go live in a box and drink until you die of cirrhosis. Speaking of Oskar, shortly after I left, he, while likely drunk, fell down the front steps and injured himself. He was left bedbound for over a month. Okay, how's that any different? Except for the fact that he's injured, I guess. But he's still just laying in his room being a piece of shit all day. A few months later, the landlady did throw Oskar out. He made a whole bunch of social media posts blaming capitalism for his predicament, as well as blaming the landlady for his situation. Yeah, when all else fails, blame capitalism. Hilarious. Last I heard, he is now bordering on being homeless in an unspecified major metro area, still LARPing as a peaceful revolutionary, as he couch surfs. Oskar, if you're out there and reading this, hearing this, I gotta tell you, get your damn life together. It's been some type of record that you have been able to continually find enablers for this long. Most, if not all of your problems can be traced right back to your drinking. He's never gonna see it, dude, I hate to tell you. The bottle's his best friend. He's going down a long, dark, lonesome road. Can't nobody save him from it but himself, and I don't think that's gonna happen. But OP says, do check yourself into detox, Oskar. Get some therapy and rehab, or don't, because you're not my fucking issue to deal with. Amen to that. We're moving on. As you said, no one is going to coddle you. Because it's clear to me that you have been coddled for your whole damn life. Insanely accurate, super perceptive. Well, that concludes the tale of Oskar the Drunk. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Till next time, peace. Oh, Roaming Rivers, that's a nice one, you know? I'm glad you got up and out, first and foremost. Oskar, like I said, he's down the darkest of trails. He had been coddled for a long time. He had a billion chances to make his life easier while there were still some people that cared about him, but he persistently chose to be a piece of crap. So, what are you gonna do? Watch him slide off down the sewer, I guess. Bye-bye. And no, that's not a reference to, you know, actual sewer slide. Although he is doing that as well with the constant drinking. I just don't get it. I've never really been in the grips of alcoholism like this. So it's hard for me to see it from Oscar's point of view. But I guarantee you that personal responsibility does fall into this equation somewhere. And I'm glad that Landlady and OP and all the roommates decided that they weren't going to shoulder Oscar's responsibilities anymore. Now you're on your own. Figure it out. You could have worked hard early in life and had it easier later in life, but you decided to have it easy earlier in life, and now you got it really hard at the end. And I think that's the harder way to do it. But he's not smart enough to learn by watching everybody else, so yeah. If you don't go the smart way, then you're gonna have to go the strong way. I guess the only question is, how strong is Oskar? Not very. He's not gonna make it very far. And that's okay. Nothing of value was lost. I hope you enjoyed the episode, friends. If you did, I hope you like, comment, subscribe. Join me on the Patreon or the YouTube channel memberships. Thanks so much. We got Amazon affiliate links, Teesprings, PayPals if you want to, help me out some other way. Most importantly, always remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead, cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be